هل لك سر عند الله بينك أنت وبين الله؟ هل لك صدقات تخفى لا يعلمها إلا الله؟ هل لك سر عند الله بينك أنت وبين الله؟ هل لك صدقات تخفى لا يعلمها إلا الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of Know Your Charity. I'm your host, Luqman Shadrack. Today we have an organization that does humanitarian relief aid work assistance, not only in South Africa, but throughout the world as well. In the studio, I'd like to welcome from African Muslim Agency, Hafiz Hussein Junara. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for having us on here.
My absolute pleasure. You guys have been extremely busy during Ramadan, but the work starts long before that as well. Give our viewers maybe an update of some of your amazing Ramadan projects and some of the wonderful achievements that you've managed to gain in Ramadan.
Alhamdulillah, only through the mercy of Allah and generosity of donors. This year's theme for Ramadan was going beyond, to go beyond, and inviting the viewers, the listeners, the donors, supporters to join African Muslims Agency, its team, its staff in 24 countries around the world, full-time based, to go beyond in these countries that have been identified beforehand. So we would visit these countries. In these countries, we'd have teams that are permanently based in these countries to join us as we go beyond. Why go beyond? Because, Luqman, as we know it right now in Gaza, people are going beyond for survival.
Absolutely.
In Afghanistan, where we build water wells, we run orphan programs, we provide dignity kits for females. Those people in those mountaintops go beyond on a daily basis. They have a morsel of food. So we want to join us for Ramadan, to cross those mountains, to cross the crocodile-infested rivers in Africa, to reach those most remote villages, to ensure that those in those villages have, so that they don't have to go beyond, because we know what we've been blessed with.
Of course.
And what will it take for us to go beyond? Not much.
Absolutely.
But the difference it makes for the millions of people in South Africa, across Africa, Afghanistan, Gaza, and other parts of the world.
Alhamdulillah.
So the theme was to go beyond. Alhamdulillah, people responded. Wallahi, the people responded in such a manner that millions of people benefited. I mean, if you talk about, if the one family we met in Afghanistan, it was iftar time. The adhan was going on. Our teams were sitting in their home, and there was not even a single date in that home. A mother, a widow, and maybe 7 of her children, orphan children. Alhamdulillah, after we met her, not through us. Wallahi, we're not the magic. It's only through the mercy of Allah and generosity of donors. But their families' Ramadan was different from that point on. They're able to have, which means those kids no longer have to walk down the mountain to go work or find work or and that's just Afghanistan. We're talking about Gaza, the one mother who shared that, give us something, even if it's mix it with sand. Ramadan was different for her because people responded. And of course, Africa, where hundreds of villages have been identified and have been empowered with water wells. And that all translates to people's intentions, people's niyyah, where they donated on behalf of themselves, their sadaqah jariyah for those that are passed on, or for the pleasure of Allah, for the benefit of the ummah. And right here at home in South Africa, what we do is we empower 250 community-based organizations. So what we provide, long before Ramadan, we would truck hampers, grocery hampers that contains blankets, juices, cups. It's not just a normal hamper, it's a grocery hamper for a family for the month of Ramadan, even right up until Eid. We provide it to hundreds of organizations around South Africa. So in the month of Ramadan, those communities are reached, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. It's such beautiful stories and must be so heartwarming to be the vehicle to provide for families in need as well. But like you mentioned, the work starts months before. And how do you engage with your sponsors, your donors, the general public during the year outside of Ramadan?
Well, the work starts long before, in the sense that our teams are permanently based. They're identifying the needs in those villages, in those communities, meeting the families personally to identify, okay, these families, this is the situation. And we would provide that feedback to our donors. Even after Ramadan, we have projects that are ongoing. For example, there is still a need for water wells and boreholes in Africa and Afghanistan as we speak. Malawi, as we know it, a few weeks ago, was declared a state of disaster. Inflation increased close to 50%. We found people eating grass and ants for consumption. These are people who live off the land.
Right.
So what does having access to a water well means? It means they have access to water, but they're able to use the water to grow food. So next Ramadan is very different for them because now they're able to grow food. You know, it's the hunger season in Mozambique and Malawi. Now, if you think about we came out of what does it mean for the donor, the viewer watching right now? We've come out of the blessed month of Ramadan. Let us not stop. Let us say, okay, as a family, as a business, as a community, how can we do one water well collectively in a village in Africa so that next Ramadan, that village would have access to water, which means they have access to food.
Absolutely.
And the dignity that provides to a community. Or how can we take care of an orphan child? So next Ramadan is very different for that family. And this is how we uplift the standard of a village, of a community, of a family. And these projects are ongoing, such as water wells, boreholes, as well as the orphan program.
I know you constantly have teams on the ground in various parts of the world. Can you maybe give us a little bit of insight in terms of what projects are currently on the go?
Yes, so absolutely. Right now, the focus is water. It's in Malawi, it's in Mozambique. So in the north of Mozambique, Luqman, and I invite you to join us, is to come and see the remoteness of the areas. Some of these areas are not accessible via vehicle. You'd have to go on a boat or on a motorbike, and you end up walking. And we always hear that sometimes you have to drive, get off the vehicle, jump on a motorbike, stop, walk, until you experience the actual reality of it.
Of course.
And you realize you walk into a village or a community, you see hundreds of people living and are in extreme poverty. So the teams on a daily basis identify these areas. Then with, of course, the NIA, able to fulfill that, whether it's with water projects. It's about identifying communities, orphanages, orphans, females who are in need of pads, of dignity kits. We have a campaign called BU that provides these pads to communities in South Africa, to orphans, to 48 orphan girls in Afghanistan, to Lebanon in the refugee camps, as well as at schools in Malawi as well. So these are the ongoing yearly projects. Of course, as we know it, the efforts in Gaza continue on a daily basis. In Gaza, we have, to add some context, we have 4 teams based in 5 areas. In the north, in the south, in the central area of Gaza, providing, right now the need is nourishment. So whether it's hot meals, we do a feeding in Gaza called takiya. Takiya is a mass cooking of pots of food provided at the shelters where everybody is taking refuge, at the schools, as well as in the displaced camps where we do the feeding. We also do vegetable packs, of being given out, and other easy to eat food hampers. Because people don't have fridges, they don't have stoves in Gaza right now. So that's the efforts that continue in Gaza.
How can our viewers get involved? I mean, what are some of the efforts, what are some of the ways that they can contribute and be part of your wonderful work that you do?
We always, yes, we want people to give the zakah, the sadaqah, the lillah. We want people also to give us the zakah of their time, to join us, whether it is here locally in South Africa or in different parts of the world, to come and see the impact of your generosity. We want to bring the niyyah close to the donor so they can see, okay, I'm giving my zakah, my sadaqah, but this is the impact that it's having on this family and this community, and so the real question mark is the donor. What is in their heart? What is that niyyah, that burn that they want to fulfill? And Allah places us all as tools, as well as yourself are giving us the opportunity to connect individuals, to connect communities, so that we can all play a part in serving another human being. And right now it's getting cold in South Africa. Many people across the country and in the weeks to come will face the harsh winter of South Africa. So right now we have a winter campaign that's rolling out, but of course tying into that, as we know it, is the excitement of Hajj. And with that comes the Qurbani. And, teams are preparing right now for Qurbani in South Africa and other parts of the world.
In terms of, when you mentioned, people can give off their skills as well. I mean, do you often take in volunteers? How can they come through? What type of skills can they offer to assist?
Absolutely. So we have volunteer teams around South Africa, for example, in different parts of the world, but in South Africa as well. We connect them with our volunteer teams in that region. So whether it's Cape Town or Johannesburg or Durban, and then whatever the intention is of the volunteer, whether they want to participate in a distribution, for example, or whether they want to do admin work, or whether they have a skill, or maybe they identify a need that we can support. Remember, it's not always what we do. Someone might come with an idea or an initiative that we can support.
Brilliant.
And if we can't support, we'll guide it in the right direction, inshallah. So it's always to connect, to come together, to partner with someone and say, okay, give us your skills, your time, and join us in the field. Alhamdulillah, the volunteer teams are growing around South Africa, in Port Elizabeth, in Newcastle, even in the remote town areas. Alhamdulillah, people are just wanting to be involved, you know, and that's the amazing thing. You don't have to be part of an organization to be a humanitarian.
Gotcha.
We are all humanitarian.
I agree.
You in serving another human being.
Of course. How do people get hold of you if they'd like to know more?
AfricaMuslimsAgency.co.za, that's our website. Our social media is updated daily from the different projects, different campaigns that we have from around the world. Alhamdulillah, that's an Africa Muslims Agency. Or, you know, all details are on the website. Offices are open around the country. We'll be popping up at different events. Please join us. We welcome you to join us and connect with us, inshallah.
Brother Hassan, Jazakallah so much for coming into studio, always sharing the wonderful work that you do, and may all your future projects grow from strength to strength, inshallah.
Jazakallah, ameen. Taqabbalallah minna minkum.
And that's how we end today's Know Your Charity with Africa Muslims Agency. Do go and visit them to assist, to contribute, and to see where you can better the lives of all our brothers and sisters around the world. For Know Your Charity, I'm Luqman Shadrack.
هل لك سر عند الله بينك أنت وبين الله هل لك صدقات تخفى لا يعلمها إلا الله هل لك سر عند الله بينك أنت وبين الله هل لك صدقات تخفى لا يعلمها إلا الله